The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone and welcome to APS Webinars. The title of today's webinar is The Road to Commercialization. I'm Crystal Bailey and I'll be your host for today's broadcast. Thank you all so much for joining us. Today's presentation, APS Webinars are brought to you as a service of the American Physical Society, connecting you with the expertise of individuals who can offer insight into physics careers, educational programs, and professional development for students, working physicists, and educators. Today's presentation features speaker Siva Sivananthan and moderator Unil Pereira. Siva will be talking about the pitfalls, challenges, and accomplishments he experienced in starting his companies based on his university research. After Siva finishes the presentation, the remainder of the program will belong to you for our question and answer session. Because of the number of people attending this webinar, we are only accepting text questions. So if you would like to ask a question, please type it into the questions panel located on the right side of your screen. You may submit questions through the questions panel at any time during the webinar, and we will answer all of your questions at the end. We will do our best to cover all of the questions that you submit, but we want to apologize if we are unable to cover everything. Finally, a link to the recording of today's presentation will be emailed to you after today's event and will be made available on the APS website on this webinar's main page. However, we do ask that you please allow us 24 hours for the video upload. With that, let's get started. Moderating the discussion today will be Dr. Unil Pereira. Professor Pereira is a physics professor and former graduate director of the GSU physics program. He received his physics BS from the University of Colombo in Sri Lanka and his MS and PhD in physics from the University of Pittsburgh. He is a fellow of APS, SPIE, and IEEE. His current research deals with quantum infrared detectors for imaging applications. And with that, I will turn things over to you, Unil.
Thank you, Crystal. So today, as Crystal mentioned, we have Dr. Siva Sivananthan joining us to talk about taking research from the university to small business. So Dr. Siva is a distinguished professor and the director of the microphysics laboratory at the University of Illinois at Chicago. And he is the founder and CEO of EPIR Technologies Incorporated and founder and chairman of the board of the Sivananthan Laboratories, which is a high-tech Bell Lab style incubator based in Bolingbrook, Illinois. He has more than 25 years of experience in MBE growth and characterization, and he has become a world-renowned physicist and entrepreneur, pioneering technologies relating to semiconductors, night vision, and next-generation solar cells. He was named an Immigrant Innovator Champion of Change by the White House and one of 5 outstanding Americans by choice by the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. He also helped to found Inspire, a nonprofit institute whose mission is training Illinois' workforce and to inspire Illinois college and high school students to pursue careers in renewable energy. And at this time, I would like to invite Siva to start his presentation.
Hey, thank you, Unil, and thanks, Crystal, for organizing this at this early hours. And also, I'd like to thank the entire APS team for putting this together. I'm greatly honored to have this opportunity and be here to speak to such a wide audience. I consider myself as a professor and an entrepreneur. My family, the community, and my professional life shaped who I am today. For that reason, I'll give you a little background of how things started for me. I am a product of Sri Lanka, shaped by United States of America. I will do my best to share this insight I learned in the past 30 years. I will try to address what I have learned and the key points to those who want to commercialize their ideas, start up their own businesses. As I mentioned earlier, I am who I am because of my family and my community. In Sri Lanka, I learned hard work, a passion for service to the others, and a vision for what can be done from my parents. I am the sixth of the 9 children. Both of my parents were teachers, and they dedicated their lives to educate us. They taught us to be hardworking and self-dependent. I remember the days when I sold coconuts and mangoes and leaves to make extra money. The days when I wake up early morning at 4 a.m. to have leaves ready for the merchants who comes on bullet carts. I was taught about the leadership community service and gained a strong foundation in science through my education in my elementary school, Mattaville Saraswati Vidyasala, and Jaffna Hindu College, and Peradeniya University in Sri Lanka. It is that foundation really provide the core value for me to succeed from there. In 1982, I left Sri Lanka to carry out my PhD at UIC, University of Illinois at Chicago. Upon my arrival, the physics department at UIC found housing for me and made my transition to United States as easy as possible. It is that support make a huge impact and the confidence. I continue to learn from my family, my community, and my UIC colleagues. They provided me the opportunity to achieve the fullest potential. I have been fascinated by my research since first started at UIC. I remember the advice from Professor Lakshman Disanayaka at University in Semiconductors and my teachers from Jaffna Hindu College in Science. I pioneered this technology along with my team through hard work. It is that team building I learned my young age has helped. We worked collectively in the lab day and night. In those days, most of the instruments were not automated. Instead, most of them were operated manually. As you know, in 1982, the computer is coming, and it's very difficult and expensive to get. I would stay in front of the MBE instruments and turning the knobs manually for hours, and sometimes it's 8 hours trying to make sure we can grow as superlative registers. We would go in the lab and build many of the instrument in-house. If you don't have the passion in what you do, you would see these long hours as overtime or burden. But instead, these experience, it is the fact that I knew all the details of the machines and MBE and the growth, help build the knowledge, understand your field, your limitation and challenges, and enable to see new approaches and alternative directions to take the research to product. You cannot develop expertise by just reading or studying. You have to get in the lab. Get your hands dirty, fix or build things yourself. These type of experience help you understand the nuts and bolts of your product or service you are planning to offer. To take the research to the commercialization, you really need to understand in and out. It is that which makes researchers into successful entrepreneurs. If you don't give personal attention, shy away from hard work, you may easily make incorrect assumptions because you don't understand the basics. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you need to lead and you need to have a clear understanding of the technique from bottom up. I learned a lot as a graduate advisor. As a graduate advisor, I push my students to be independent thinkers, leaders of their own. I was lucky to have several professors and teachers to help me do that. And I learned from that the team building. Team building is a key for the success. If you do not have this team, it's you won't be able to take the research to commercialize it. And I guided them, but I also wanted to give them the room to grow, think independently, and be leaders of their own. That focus will help you build a strong team for them to find their niche to succeed and proud of themselves. I see my success only through their success. When you share your knowledge with others and push them to do their best, you will find life to be very rewarding and humbling and be successful. As I grow my team at UIC, I saw an application of this research in night vision space and night vision space medical and imaging technology. I realized that the opportunity to commercialize it is there. But how do I cross the Death Valley? As you all know, it is doing the top research is one, and then commercial world is other. As a researcher, we always want to get the best value. We want to be the number one. But in a commercial world, you need to be able to develop it, produce it, and repeat it, and have a cost-effective way. So I really found that there is a dead valley between the university research and real-world commercialization. I learned it in a hard way. I had to build my own bridge. This point is where a lot of people get discouraged. Because in my case, I remember I had to really climb down the mountain, swim the river, climb up the mountain so that I can build my own research. But that's not the only way to do that. It's in my case, as you can see that I basically built the bridge it's formed a research and development company and turned that into 4 different businesses. And then also, as I said, I reach out to the community. Reaching out to the community is also equally well. But this is not necessarily the only pathway one can really build a bridge. In early stage, you face a lot of challenges. And it doesn't matter where you live, which part of the world. You really figure out what you need under that environment, what do you have, how much risk you are willing to take. It's important, right? Reaching out to people and ask them whether they can be part of it is also equally important. But make sure when you reach out, you know what you want to achieve. You are willing to take the risk. Priority is key. Whether you take the technology, creating some kind of a concept, how you are going to manufacture, where the location, which facility you are going to use to develop. And these are all important facts for the early stages. Be vigilant and always make common sense decision. And it is going to be challenging and difficult. Creating the foundation. Standard textbook, you have seen it. There are the mission, vision, strategy, and value. It's extremely important that you think it through and come out with what your values are. Your team, when you build it, is based on your value. I have seen people spending months and years building an outstanding business plan, but unfortunately, if you really don't know what's your mission and what's your value, you are not going to go anywhere. You need to take more risk than others. Risk is an important factor that every entrepreneur will consider. Find out how far you are willing to fall down and then start the pathway. And as always I said, when you want to climb a mountain, as you start moving towards, it's not going to be a straightforward upward pathway. You sometimes have to fall down and sometimes you have to jump down and then climb back again. It's a pathway definitely is up and down. It's expected because that's what you are making. You are using the research to make an impact. Sometimes people spend years trying to do a market analysis. As an entrepreneur, there are two ways. Yes, you can do a Me Too technology by coming out with doing the market analysis, or you could go in and create a product which you believe is important for the consumers, and then it becomes a product. As you said, Apple, Steve, when he created it, he just went in and said, this is what people need. He didn't go and do a market analysis, and he said, this is what people will. I am going to tell them this is good for them. So it's basically you have to come on with something which will make an impact, because if people knows it already, then they have it. But here you are really especially in the technology world, you have to go in and say why it's important and tell them this is good for you and convince them, make sure it is really good for you. So again, once again, you have to create a strong foundation with the value. One thing it is important to understand is that challenge will come up and you will have to address them at the best you can, but don't be scared. Don't assume that there won't be failures. Failure is a failure only when you don't learn from it and use it for your own best. Every step you go forward in technology, business development, there is going to be issues. Knowing what you should not do and what are the problems you are facing, what could really hurt the production of the manufacture these are more important than knowing how to do that, because these are the one which is going to let you produce, take the research into a real commercialization one. You need to really understand the problems you are going to face. So don't let any failures affect your passion and belief. If you have the passion, just learn from it, move forward. Expect it. When it happens, learn from it and move forward. Don't stop. Success only follows failures. The team. Team is key for any jobs. Well, you could be a CEO, engineer, driver, secretary, accountant, janitor. There's no hierarchy, just a team. Everyone has their role to play. And if, as a founder, an entrepreneur, if you believe that one job is not important, don't have the job, because that is going to costing you space and time for no reason. Every job you have should be important, and you should be, as an entrepreneur, willing to do every one of those steps, because you learn and adapt and create the value based on what you are doing it. As the company grows and you slowly step out from these roles and step into management of your organization, you should fill this position with people more talented than yourself. Your team is as important, if not more, as the money you can invest in your company. Every person's contribution is important, and you should let them know that. It's important to make sure that the team building, as you build a team, people know what is in it for them. Make sure they are excited and they get more out of it. The other point I really notice in certain places is people, I am a professor, I have this 10 world best research, respect me. The problem is, it's just that's not the way you are going to build a team. Respect is something you earn by working with them. If you demand it, that means you really have, if you don't have the team. So make sure you earn the respect from that team. What is in it for them? Think about it. Why are they coming here, working day and night, dedicating themselves for this? make sure those are addressed and they are really proud of what they are doing. They need to be proud. Surround yourself by those who are willing to challenge you. If you have everyone around you say yes, then you don't need them. You need people who are willing to challenge and question you. Know your strength and the weakness. Knowing the weakness is important, because that's the only way you can create protection and build your team accordingly. I have learned sorry guys. See, I learned a vast amount of small business economies over the years. While commercializing my research, I learned a few key points. Most important, finding what is most important will vary business to business, and do not go and figure out what the other entrepreneur when he was building was important. But you really need to find out what is important and build a large network for what you feel is important. And you need to have your community network. Your community means the people in the field, the engineers, the mechanics, and family. I mean, it goes on forever, because all these will come into it. So you really need to build a strong community around you and make sure that you have the support from them. I learned just a second. When you start the company, there are several ways to raise money. It's not the same. I invested a lot using my money, my salary, and my wife's salary from our professor and dentist job, and that's definitely, one has to find it. I will talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. The only question you always want to ask yourself is, sometimes I found some of the researchers and professors who raise a couple of $1 million, suddenly they act like millionaires. That's a failure. The money you raised belongs to the company, and it is 0%. In an entrepreneur startup company, you own 0% of that money. Yes, of course you own the company, but you invest the money back into the company and invest in the large portfolio. When we talk about portfolio, we are not asking people to go and buy outside stocks and everything. Within your business, what's your thought process? As I said, in the case of night vision, when I'm developing a night vision EPIR, I need an MBE system, I need a characterization system, I need people, I need clean room. So start looking at all the assets needed, and the community outreach is going to help quite a bit. So make sure that you look at all those things and invest it in a proper way, but have a large portfolio. The challenges is going to be faced. You are going to face a lot of challenges as you go in. I remember I was building the company in 2000, when 9/11 hits, and suddenly what the money I was supposed to receive disappeared. It could have probably would be end for so many people. We did not stop. Yes, I had to bet on my house, and because I believed in their technology, and I really had to try hard, struggle a lot in 2001, and we came back with even a stronger position and better situation. It happens again. It happened again when the 2008. We were supposed to receive some large chunk of money, and it didn't happen. But so when you go into a business, remember the cash flow is going to come, but you need to make sure what is that you can put up with and make sure that you are ready for it. Because when if you walk away at the time, it's more difficult. It's going to be challenging. Now, as one goes through it, if you want to build a company, remember IP, intellectual property is the key. Without intellectual property, you won't succeed. You need to protect it. The important is, as you are working on it, since you are from the university, you are coming out of the university, you have graduate students work on it, postdocs work on it. Remember, you need to manage it. But nothing wrong in it, but open discussion, openly managing is key. In the case of IP, you need to keep it confidential. Quite often people think that, okay, I'm applying for IP, but I put just only on my website. Well, once it's on your website, it's general property, and you really can. So you really need to, you can really manage both IP and publication very easily, but you need to be proactive and do it right away. Work with the university. Remember, the failure a lot of people when they assume that IP while they are working on university or institute belongs to them. No. Depending on the universities and others, you can work hard, but ownership of the IP belongs to where you are working, but you could always work with them, work with the university to come out with a better arrangement for you to use it, because universities really want to help you on that. The management of the conflict. You have postdocs, you have graduate students, you have secretary, all those people who are working for you, reporting to you, and they help develop this product, and they are going to continue to be involved. And it's important you have them involved, because there's no reason to go from the university research and to the university and start from a new team. You develop the best team, use them, but manage them, openly have a plan how it is handled and arranged. If you are employed at the university as well as outside, you need to have an open conversation to establish a conflict of interest management plan. Most of the universities really want to see your idea transferred into a commercial world to make an impact. Universities are there to educate and make an impact to the community as a whole. So they are really interested in. Implement structures to transition to community. Just talk about it, figure out who can be involved. Ensure, that's extremely important, ensure you have a written plan to protect those who are reporting to you. Sometimes, I found it in my case, I have my students talking to another professors so that they can really make sure their progress is okay, and if they have any issues, they can really get some counseling. It's the same thing, just open discussion, but make sure conflict of interest, if you cannot avoid it, manage it, have a document, have a pathway for the students to address their concerns. What are your funding options? I think that's always people talk about. Obviously, there are government funding, NGO funding, your own savings, your friends, angel investors and ventures, university supports for the incubators, and there are places like in my case, one of the laboratory support. There are always various places which support these things. There are product funding, you can collaborate with people, or you can go to the bank. In my case, I don't want to go to the bank when I went to the most difficult time. If it is bank, they probably would have closed it down, because I put my money in, I invested in, so it's therefore I could really go through the difficult time to succeed. So but keep in mind, you need to invest in yourself. If you do not believe in you, no one else is going to believe in. When people put money in, it is in you they are working. It's yes, the technology is important. That's only part of the story. I remember a situation where the professor from one of the top university came and asked for $100,000, and he has a great idea of technologies, which I will not go into the detail. He says to us, if you give me 100,000, you will in 3 years make tens of millions of dollars. My answer, then I was listening and I said, you are a professor. You are making 6 figures. So why you want to give us the opportunity to make tens of millions when you could not take the risk? And how do you expect us to take a risk when you don't believe in yourself and take the risk? So the first order business, when you try to do it, people should feel you are willing to put whatever you can. It could be just the time, money, space. People need to feel that you are taking a risk. I mean, in US, if you look at it, what are the options? There are 500,000 small business are opened every year. Most of them don't last more than a year, more than 95% of them. And average investment is about 80,000, right? Where's the resources coming from? And it's your money. It's, if you look at it, 50% of the startups are funded by personal savings and credit. Sometimes people think that it is, I couldn't get the venture, I couldn't get the angel, so I can't do it. No, look at it, 57%. 38% comes from friends and families. So if almost 95% of the small business are really invested from friends, families, personal savings, right? Only a small portion is from the venture. When it goes to the venture, yes, it is a large amount of money. When you go, make sure that you have developed it enough, therefore you really have the control on the technology, because when you bring an outside person, you are, they have a different value. They are there to make money, and therefore you need to make sure you are protected. Remember, when you are going from research to commercialization, you are doing it for passion, but commercial world, business world, you need to think in terms of money. How do you make money? Making money is a critical part of commercialization. I have seen people say, oh, I'm just doing it for my passion. I don't want to make money. If you make that statement, no one is going to work with this, because you are going and asking the angels and venture capital to put money and said, I don't want to make money, and therefore they will assume that you are basically not going to make money for them too. If you don't make for yourself, you are not going to make. It's important. So if you look at this chart, you can see that it's a, yes, small percentage, even with the total amount invested in US per year. It's about $500 billion, $531 billion. Out of that, the venture money is only 22. It's very small, about 4% is the venture money, and then for the angel is also again the same amount. Large portion of the money, it's about 185 from your personal saving, 60 from families and friends. The answer is try and see what you can do with your money, move it forward. I know depending on which country where you are, there are restrictions, but reach out to people outside. You reach out to your friends. There will be a lot of people willing to help, but you need to, people need to feel that you are taking the initiative. You want to get it done. So that's extremely important. So this gives you a little bit of where you can, but it's individual obviously, but you need to be willing to invest in yourself or go to your friends and families before you go to the venture and others. So final thoughts. I want to emphasize a few points I mentioned earlier. Create a mission and vision for your company. What is the purpose of your company? Where do you see your company in the long run? Know your core values. What will be the driving force for you and your employees? Like your commitment to the excellence. If you don't like your commitment to excellence, then you are not going to push it out. Know your mission, vision, and core values, as they will guide you in your most troubled times. Your business plan may change along the years, but these three will not. If you believe in your product, then you should be willing and ready to take the risk involved. Don't ask others to shoulder more risk than you do. This would be a mistake. It would mean that you don't believe in your product or service. As I mentioned about one of the professors who he couldn't invest $100,000 on his own idea to make multi-millions. As a small business owner, you should be willing to do everything yourself. If you see a garbage, you really need to be able to pick the garbage and drop it in, rather than going and finding somebody to drop it, because you already wasted your resources, right? You will be an accountant, secretary, janitor, driver, CEO, name it. As you build your company, grow out of these roles, make sure to fill these positions with people better than you and with those who will be willing to challenge for the good of the company. Once your company makes money, invest in your company, especially the startup. Initially, you need to reinvest the money into your company, in the startup company. Company asset, invest in the people, technology, location, provide a better service. In the startup stage, assume 0% of the company money is your money. Hire talented people, provide training opportunity for their success. Give better benefit or bonuses, bring technology and innovation techniques to what to do. Upgrade your infrastructure, implement new mechanism to give better service. So initially, when you make profit, just reinvest it, because you are at the beginning of the stage. Road to commercialization will be a long one with struggles and challenges on the way for most people. As I mentioned earlier, when you climb the mountain, there's no straight pathway to climb up. Always. There will be ups and downs. You will fail many times. You can only be successful business owner if you have support from your community, your network, and your family. Their support will always help you to start over when you face challenges and move forward as you learn from your mistakes. Thank you very much. Please feel free to reach out if you have any additional question. I hope I was able to give some insight. Again, I want to take this chance to thank APS for giving this opportunity, and for Dr. Unil Perara for his vision and his leadership for making this idea come fruitful. I also want to thank Krista for arranging all the stuff, this webinar, and also I would like to thank Kevin over here, waking up early morning, and my daughter Abhirami for providing the support to prepare this. At this time, if you have any questions, I will be happy to address. Unil?
Yeah, thank you, Siva, for a very informative discussion, and also you stopped at the right time, so we have some time for questions. And I also would like to remind the audience, if you have questions, you can type it in, and as it comes through with the available time, we'll try to answer those questions. So now, Siva, let me come to you with one question which came through, which is somewhat connected to some things you already mentioned about patent applications. And can you elaborate on why a patent is important, and what do you get out of getting a patent, because it costs money? And also, how can you get a patent and also publish the research in a journal article?
As we move forward to, with business, commercialization, you need to definitely differentiate yourself. What differentiate yourself, as I always said, everyone needs to have their own secret sauce, which makes a difference on how it tastes. That need to be protected. That's what gives you the advantage. In a technology world, intellectual property. It is that really is your secret sauce, which differentiate you from others. So in order to do that, definitely you have to protect the intellectual property and know-how. Some of them you file it as a patent. The others, it stays as trade secret. Sometimes people in the research, university world are kind of a torn in between filing protecting IP and publishing it. In my view, I don't think one has to shy off from either one of them. The important is to talk to you. If you have an idea, don't put it on your website. Don't publish it. Talk to your institute, talk to your IP office, and tell them this is an important IP, and file it's a preliminary patent. Once you file it, then you can go and publish it. That's not a problem because it is all about the date, right? Sometimes the universities don't want to do it, but if you believe in it, talk to them. Hey, listen, I will put the money in because I think it's important. Or I'm going to find money from my friends because it is going to really have a major product line soon. And there's always a risk involved. So if you have that, I think there is a way. But make sure these are done in writing. Because remember, there are times I know there is one friend who really talked to the IP office and they said, oh, no problem, you go and file it. And it was not an issue until things became successful. The issue is if you fail, it's not a problem. Only when it's successful it is, but your goal is to succeed. So you don't want to have IP, intellectual property issues when you succeed, so make sure these things are in writing. Not verbal, not somebody said, not because you assume it. Send it to them and tell them, okay, either they apply the IP, if they don't, ask them to give it to you so you can apply it, get it in writing, or tell them, hey, I will pay for a part of it. Can you guys do it? So come out with a ways, but document. Documentation is extremely important for an entrepreneur to go from research to the research to the commercialization. Again, as I said, during the bridge, as you build the bridge to cross the Death Valley, it's a struggle, that's true, but be careful, be alert. Make sure that you don't put the information on the website and then apply for IP. It's too late. Once you put it on the website, it's not yours anymore. It's a public forum, right? So I think you can handle it, you can do better, be vigilant, talk to the IP office, document it, and make sure when you write the IP, all the parties involved are included, because that's what it's going to be. And also, only the people who are involved, their names are included, because either situation you can have issues. Because if you add people just because he is a team member, he's a nice guy, it's going to be bad. It's got to be the people who help develop that intellectual property. Punit? Punit?
Yeah, sorry. Along the same line, could you elaborate a little bit more on applications or commercialization opportunities in your research projects? Based on that, for the audience to see whether there might be something which they can think of?
In my research, It's
I mean, not exactly your research, but based on what you do, like semiconductor research, solar cell, which is a hot topic these days.
right. I think let's say in the infrared world, I can talk about it. We are working on the infrared currently. All this time, most of the work I have done is for night vision, the high-end technologies. But then there are so many other applications. As I said, when you have a product, people will choose it if you really think it through. Well, one of the things we are looking at currently is how do we, one example we are looking into see where, how do we detect water in farm area? Or how do we detect, so you can scan the entire farm. come out with a camera or some technology which really can identify whether in this tree is dying because there is water problem or it's because it's sick, right? Because as a farmer, when they have this large number of acres, right, you cannot just go in and sink it. And then sometimes they put a lot of water and waste of resources and keep on adding fertilizers. But if you really can come out with the technology, we can identify and say, wait a minute, there are plenty of water there. So then one can start looking at it. Or we can go into a commercial world or the medical world. Let's say if you can come out with a cheaper technology instead of $1 million camera, which is used in fighter planes and satellites, you can really come out with ways where a firefighter can see through the fire. And there are technologies, but really, if we can come out with an alternative, cheaper way to do that, you can really bring the cost down. Therefore, the first responders can really have better technology, identify where the fire is starting, where the people are there. Medical applications, there are quite a bit. One can start thinking about cancer research and, the infrared technology in my view. It's definitely detect everything cancer related, but it also has a lot of false information. But how do we combine the infrared image and the X-ray image? Or how do we, if somebody has has a burned skin, well, can we use that to see how deep the burn is so we can treat it? So I think one has to start looking into various applications and to see how we can really take it to different directions. Solar cell. And I remember when I have been working on it, people will say silicon took over and thin film cadmium telluride is dead and gone. And I kept on talking to these people and talked to them, and I have visited Sri Lanka a few times and talking to them too. There's always come out with how about the issue with the cadmium? How about the issue with the issue? But then I told them, hey, look at it, guys. There is only one company I know which is making really good amount of profit, which is First Solar, which is using basically a cadmium telluride sprayed on a glass. But then people will think in terms of, hey, how about the issues with the cadmium? The amount of cadmium coming out of the coal plant is probably more than what's going to come out of the silicon. So I think there is going to be resistance, but if you look at the solar cell, and there are at this point, one has to think in terms of futuristic, but next for 5 to 10 years, what's in the manufacturing, where you can make an impact, is cadmium telluride thin film, which is either it could be on the glass, or one can start thinking in terms of flexible. If you can put it on the flexible system, that won't, it makes it easy, because if you can have it in a flexible system, let's say in Sri Lanka, let's say, or any other place where there's a high wind, one can think in terms of fold it and bring it down. So that you don't really bring. So I think there are, and again, I said in the solar cell, I think in my view, thin film cathode is there to stay. If we can come out with ways how to use them, how to seal them, and it's going to make an impact. As a cadmium telluride, at this point, the theoretical potential is close to 28%. What we have reached so far is 16. So I personally think that in the solar direction, thin film is long way to go. I think that's the one which is going to bring the price down. I think currently the price is close to about 0.6 per peak watt, but one can go further down, and that's going to help. So in my view, I think that's going to be an answer.
Okay, thank you, Siva. And we have several more questions, so let's try to go through some of those. And
Okay.
this question is back again connected with the patent. Who should be in the patent, and who owns the patent work? If you are working in a research group with the advisor, student, and some postdocs, who owns what? And how do you decide on the authors?
It is a complicated decision. I definitely I understand the difficulty and pain. To start with, in a global sense, the IP belongs to the institute where you are working. So that's a starting point. If you are working on the university, then intellectual property belongs to them. And who are the participants in that? Because every universities have mechanism to see how they give the credit, and you need to really work with it. And how you make the credit, it's all up to you, because you are the one who knows who is really contributing, who did the work to make an impact on the IP. So I think it's a hard one to answer, but it's important to make sure that whoever who contributed is really recognized. Don't add the names just because he is part of the team.
Okay, thank you, Siva. And another question is, in a developing country, commercialization is somewhat hard. And can you comment on how to deal with the IP-driven research with a group, and how can you get network and pool together resources from around the world? How to balance these things?
I think first, and I think obvious factor affecting entrepreneurs in developing countries is lack of capital, financial innovations, and I think also the infrastructure. Infrastructure is also an issue. It's most of the people in the developing country, they really don't have the resources to start their own. But but it also in other way around, it also gives them opportunity to come out with different ways to develop their product. I mean, the problem, and I agree, in a developing country, if you go to the bank, the interest rate is extremely high. I mean, in US we pay 5-6%, and in the other countries you are talking about 18%. So how do we handle that? I think it is key is, one, trying to find ways to move it within yourself using all resources you can, and then reach out to your network. I think that's my answer, is there are people who are willing to really work with you all. I mean, every part of the country they are in, I mean, I know in US there are a lot of people from Sri Lanka, India, China, and throughout the world. So you can, I mean, I could talk in terms of, at least in Sri Lanka, I would, my experience is, I always tell them, it's just reach out to people. I mean, I work with some of my former professors and work with universities, and just the answer is reach out, and always there will be someone who is really want to help you to take the technology and will help you use their facilities in US or other places to test your idea, work with you. Protect your IP. Be careful. Make sure that you choose the right people, but once you have it, you use them to really get it started. But once you have a reasonable product, you will be able to raise fund initially from the friends and families and networks you know, outside the country. I know internally it's difficult, but it's the network, community, building the community is extremely important. That's how you can really succeed. I mean, I was telling you Anil earlier, if you're a graduate student, you always contact others and just say, help me out to apply here and there. So in the same thing, in the same token, you have a researcher, entrepreneur, reach out, I have a great idea, I want to work with, I need this help, and find the people who can help you. And that's the key part, is reach out, network, community.
Before I go to the next question, there are a couple of questions about graduate studies, and since this is commercialization, I want to point the interested participants to go into the APS webinar site. There is another webinar which was on graduate studies, and you should be able to find that in YouTube also. So now the question to Siva from Sri Lanka, saying that it's a small country, so how can you compete in the international market when you have large economies of scale? Any suggestions?
Yeah, I think to start with, it is true. I can talk in terms of Sri Lanka, but at the same time, you have to look at what is the asset. I was born in a small village called Matil South in Sri Lanka. It's a small village. I didn't start with anything. It is the foundation I got in Sri Lanka which really helped me to achieve this goal. So from that point of view, where my communication is the core is already built, and then I got a chance to here come to US to shape it up. But the part I see is you can really compete, because think about Singapore in 1970s. Singapore, Sri Lanka was doing much better than Singapore, right? So it's a small country. They didn't have it. They were able to build it. It's about, yes, you cannot change it overnight, but if we really focus and really be pragmatic and focus on what we can really achieve and the Sri Lankans can achieve, I think we can succeed. I don't think because the other groups have large funding, you won't be able to succeed, because so many other countries. Think about South Korea, right? They made it through. But the thing is, it's a commitment from the country as a whole and come out with a uniqueness. Identify something core which we can do it. Sri Lankan literacy is extremely high, right? Very high. So the people are very educated. People are ready to put their effort. So I don't think it's the resources is there in my view. It's more of a focusing. But if we want to really think that we are going to be the best scientists in the world today, not in 10 years from now, it's going to be a problem. But if we say, hey, I have this particular idea, let's say in the renewable energy, I'm going to focus on solar cell, wind, and hydraulic, and we are going to put all the effort and create manufacturing others, I think we can really make it through. So I don't believe that not having the resource is going to stop it. It's the will. If we had the will, and we can reach out and make it happen, because the businesses will come there because they want to make profits.
Okay, Siva, one other question. Do you think IP-driven research is a good model or mission for a team of scientific innovators?
I think you need both, right? So you need to have a mission that basically gives you the bridge, right? And will give you the community. It's a mission-based the approach, and you have all sort of activities in order to form this. Definitely, the formation IP is going to be helped by this group of people. I mean, if you don't have that, that's basically I look at as a support mechanism for IP. But you do need both. And that's the only way you can proceed, especially in high tech.
Thank you. And I think We have one last time for one last question, and that question is, if you mentioned about the importance of conducting a market survey, but some people might say that people don't know what they really want. For example, if had Henry Ford asked what people wanted, they would have said a faster horse, not a car. So is that really important?
I think that's exactly what I said in my talk, is basically when I gave it, I agree with that question, because I said exactly that don't spend your time on market research, because too much time. You need to understand it, because as I said, it's a apple, right? It's not there if Steve put all his time on the market research. It's what's important is to think about and see what's your product and how you basically has to tell the people why it's important, and then convince them and come out with something which can make an impact to the community as a whole. Yeah, that's exactly what I said earlier, and I agree. You can. When you do a market research and come out with it, knowing the market is important, but don't waste too much of your time. Think about how you are going to make a new product which is going to impact. Now, obviously, some people want some Me Too technology. Then you are really not an entrepreneur, just another commercial entity trying to do what others are doing. And as an entrepreneur, you really are the driver to tell the world why this new technology is going to make an impact to them. So I agree with this one, and that's exactly what I said.
Thank you, Siva. And it looks like we are out of time for the official webinar. So I want to thank Siva for waking up early and doing this presentation, and also the APS staff, and also our listeners who submitted all these questions. And before we stop, I now want to hand this back to Crystal. She is going to have some announcements. Here's to you, Crystal.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you both so much, Siva and Unil, for this really great discussion, and also to everybody for coming and listening and asking such great questions. So we do that. This, like Unil said, this is all the time that we have for the webinar today, but we do welcome you to follow up with the speakers. You can see that Siva has very kindly offered to be in touch with you guys, and also if you have questions and you are not sure where to send it, you can always send an email to webinars@aps.org, and we will be sure to forward your questions to our speakers for comment. Slides of this presentation will be made available on the main page for today's webinar, which you should be directed to after the end of the broadcast. As I mentioned at the beginning, a recording of today's webinar will also appear on the webinar main page, but we do allow that you please allow 24 hours for us to upload that video. You will also receive an email from GoToWebinars that contains a link to the recording of today's presentation. Lastly, as you sign off today, in order to help us continue to develop quality webinar presentations, we do ask that you please help us by taking a moment to complete a short survey as you exit. And this wraps up today's event. Thanks again to our speakers, and we hope that you'll join us again next time. American Physical Society, copyright 2013, all rights reserved. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Goodbye. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.